former federal prosecutor Tammy Allison. But what was the issue in this situation is that somehow a report that was not given to the state when they asked for all the records regarding the autopsy was a blood test that could have helped them rebut this carbon monoxide evidence. But the judge said, nope, we're not going to bring that in because it's too late. And it just blew my mind. I want to get your thoughts on this idea that they were trying to bring in this 12th hour evidence.
The judge pretty much said, make it make sense. How? Why? Like, what? That is what the judge said, essentially, in layman's terms. The state should have had this evidence. You know, pretty much no excuses made here. And that was definitely a win for the defense. And when we hear that M word, mistrial, ooh, you know, that's just not a good look for the prosecution at all. And, you know, the fact that the judge actually stated that the state has prejudiced the defense. That means, state, you have left some very important information out of here that the defense is entitled to. And, you know, the way that we want to make sure we bring justice here is by being forthright with all of the information. We don't want to hide anything. We don't want to, like, play tricks. We don't want to cheat. And the judge essentially alluded to it, but then he said, but I'm not trying to say that you hit it on purpose, but he did definitely allude to that fact.
Yeah, it's not something you want to see in a case like this. And certainly you might expect from a defense attorney, but not so much from the prosecution side. All right. And so the judge said, if you, in fact, mention that report, right, I'm going to declare a mistrial. So when it was time for Dr. Tobin to provide his testimony, inexplicably, Tobin comes very close to crossing the line that Judge Cahill was clear that he should not cross. It appeared to be the very mistake that would force the judge to declare a mistrial. Listen.
Then do you have an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty as to whether this statement that Mr. Floyd's carboxyhemoglobin could have increased by 10 to 18% is reliable?
No, I believe it is not reliable.
Would you tell the ladies and gentlemen why that statement is not reliable?
I base it on the arterial blood gas that was obtained when Mr. Floyd was in Hennepin County.
Please, Cypher.
Oh, that was a shocking moment, Tammy. And then after being narrowly close to violating the terms of the rebuttal, Dr. Tobin actually was able to get his opinion on the record by using evidence that was already admitted into court. Good job here by Jerry Blackwell. Take a listen.
If you have, like was done in Mr. Floyd when he went to Hennepin County, he had an arterial blood gas obtained. So that's sticking a needle into the artery at the wrist, and you take out the blood. And then on the blood gas measurements, you measure a number of different items on that, like the pressure of oxygen in the blood, the pressure of carbon dioxide, the amount of acid in the blood called the pH, and you get all these different measurements, and you also get the oxygen saturation, and that is how much of the hemoglobin, the protein in the blood that carries the oxygen, how much of that hemoglobin is saturated with oxygen. And we know in Mr. Floyd that it was 98% saturated.
All right, and that's important, Tammy, because, of course, Dr. Fowler said that there could have been up to 18% because of the carbon monoxide coming from the car, and Floyd's head was right next to it. But as you just heard, the blood test showed that there was 98% oxygen, leaving only room for 2% of anything else like carbon monoxide. All right, so they brought this rebuttal in, and rebuttal is important for a number of reasons. Not only do you want to knock down that carbon monoxide argument, but also it gives the state the opportunity to be the last evidence the jury hears, right?
Yes, absolutely. That rebuttal testimony was key because the defense actually did a really good job with that testimony, trying to say that the carbon monoxide poisoning could have actually attributed to George Floyd's death. What that means, people, is that is doubt in the beyond the reasonable doubt standard. So with the state being able to bring in this rebuttal testimony, even though the judge said, you know, be very careful what you say, it was a lot. You know, it was a lot, Michael. I was nervous.
It was close.
But
We
it was
thought it
so
over.
close.
We really did. We thought it was over.
I was like, what? So, but he did a really good job. It was very strategic, very narrow to very, very, very well make sure that he did not get close to that mistrial word, because that would be 14 days of work on both sides out the window. But he did a really good job. The doctor was able to put the testimony on the record to rebut, pretty much say that, listen, the carbon monoxide did not do this. It was his knee on his neck. That's what that meant.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was saying. It's what he's been saying all along. All right, Tammy Allison, stand by. We do have to take a break again. But coming up, we're going to take you back into court for some of the biggest arguments of the day about the law and the instructions that this jury will receive regarding the charges in this case, a very underrated and important part of any case. So stay with us right here on CourtTV.
Are you 50 or over? Let's take a ride and talk with some folks about the AARP Auto Insurance Program from the Hartford. So, pal, how'd it feel to turn 50?
I feel great. You know, my family threw me a party. We celebrated.
Well, I hope you celebrated by switching to the Hartford. Then you know that the Bucks got your back.